Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first Everything Apple Valley. This is something new since we're the Greater High Desert Chamber of Commerce. We didn't want to lose the connectivity with our Apple Valley businesses and agencies. So we're going to try this uh, scenario where we're going to talk to the people that make the decisions here in Apple Valley, give us an update on their programs, their progress, their projects that are important to the business community and investors and even people who may be considering moving to Apple Valley. So this will be recorded. So if there's information in here that's important or that you didn't have time to copy down, or somebody you want to contact that's speaking in this meeting, you can go back to the Greater High Desert Chamber of Commerce Facebook page or YouTube page and pick up this meeting later today. We're going to start off with the town of Apple Valley, Councilman Art Bishop. Art, you're out and about somewhere, I can tell.
Pat, I'm right here. I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but I'm right here.
Yeah, I saw you briefly. There you are. You're out.
Okay.
You're out. Are you at the park or at your house or where?
I'm in my backyard getting everything ready for a wedding we have next weekend.
Great. What's going on with the town that you'd like to share?
Okay, well, there are a number of things going on, and I want to real quick thank Mark and the chamber for putting this event together. Hopefully this works for everybody. Probably the number one thing for the town. Well, there are a number of number one things, but right now we're in our budget time. We've actually put together a citizens review budget committee, which Pat happens to be a member on, if he would like to say anything with regards to that. We're still in the process. We have a meeting coming up next week. We're still in the process of getting all the information to the committee. It's a 10-person committee plus the board and town staff. We do have a shortfall this year. Well, we're not going to have a shortfall this year. We're going to have a balanced budget. It's just, unfortunately, there are going to be cuts where we don't want to have to make them, but that's what the budget review committee is doing. We are reopening our town council meetings and our planning commission meetings in 2 weeks. That'll be the 4th Tuesday in April. We'll be allowing up to 50% of about 70 people. The town council holds about 140. So about 50% of the audience will be allowed. And we're very excited to finally get back to an audience. If someone would still like to call in and make a public comment over the phone because they're not comfortable coming in person, they can do that. Of course, you would still have to wear masks, and we'll still be taking your temperature as you come in. We are really sort of looking very forward to June 15th as the date that everything will be opened and back to normal. At least that's what the governor is saying today. Is unfortunately, Sacramento seems to change their thoughts quite often. Yesterday was the end of the comment period for the Bright Line for Caltrans, for the line from Apple Valley Rancho Cucamonga. I know we had, working with Greta, we had a somewhere around 25 letters into Caltrans. So we'll be working on reviewing those letters in the next week. We're very supportive of the Bright Line project, and we just want to keep it moving. And again, I would like to thank the chamber who did send in a letter of support. A couple of things happening with construction. We have a New Jersey Mike's, which will be going, which is my wife's favorite sandwich shop because they make gluten-free bread. They'll be going in next to the Starbucks sometime later this year. We have 2 new office buildings being built on Highway 18. One's a medical facility and the other one is a office building. And then our parks are pretty much, as I hope everybody saw the public release information in the paper. We'll be opening up all of our parks and information, all of our programs, our Freedom Festival, all of our summer programs here in the very near future. We're very excited about. Pat, I don't know if you want to take any questions or you want to wait to the end.
Do we have any questions? If you have questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll go question by speaker. So if you have any. If not, we can always get back to Art. He'd probably stay on the call.
I'll try to.
I don't see any questions. You, Mark? Oh, I see chat. Let's see. Nope.
Don't see any questions. Yeah, folks can just, as speakers are talking, if you have a question, just put it in chat and either myself or Pat will catch it and ask the speaker. But if anyone has a question for Councilman Bishop, go ahead and put it in. We could always jump back to him.
I don't see anything, but
Okay, thank
let
you,
me
Pat.
let me comment just briefly on what he said about the Citizens Budget Committee. We've gotten a lot of information. We've gotten a lot of letters regarding the golf course. People do not want the golf course to close, especially those people who live within a mile or on the golf course or near the golf course. And we're taking all those comments very seriously. I just got the packet for the next meeting. And if people who understand city budgets are a wonder to behold. So it's a project, but it's going well. And I think we'll do right by the town of Apple Valley and its citizens. And that's what's important. Okay, did Mark, I didn't see our sheriff's representative check in yet.
No, he's not here, so we can just go ahead and skip and come back to him if he arrives.
Okay, Interim Chief, Apple Valley Fire Protection District, Buddy Peratt. We're going to move you up because you've got meetings to go to help select a new chief, or at least the process for a new chief. Is that right, Buddy?
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to represent the fire district, and thank you for Trenae for letting me bump you a little bit. Yeah, a lot of things going on within the fire district, obviously, with the Chief Gelati taking off. I'm bumped up into an interim position until we fill the permanent fire chief. We're assuming probably June, July 1st is when the new chief will be on board if all the testing goes successfully. So good news there that get a permanent fire chief in here to continue the growth within the district. COVID response for us is drastically decreased. In fact, we haven't had any internal positives since January 1st. So that's good news for our staff. We had about 33% total of our staff that was infected with the COVID, or at least out on quarantine during that time. So it hit us pretty good in a couple of different hot spots, but we've seen a drastic decrease, which is good news for everyone, especially our business people here in Apple Valley. So with that, we are starting to open up kind of essentially back to business within the fire district. So what that means is you're going to start seeing fire inspectors getting out and starting doing business inspections within the community. You'll see a lot of the hazard abatement, weed abatement programs kicking back up, and obviously firework patrol coming up with concerns for July 4th. So just a couple things on that. Just a reminder to all the leaders in the community that fireworks are illegal in Apple Valley, and that's the property owner's responsibility. We have a couple ways to report through the WeTip and a local fund number that's on our website. And what we're trying to do is really kick off the campaign earlier than normal this year with the light of the incident at the city of Ontario that unfortunately killed 2 people and caused millions of dollars of damage. So we're seeing that huge increase of illegal fireworks getting smuggled into California for resale. So as far as Apple Valley, we're trying to get a jump on that and give opportunities for our citizens to report suspicious activities with regards to fireworks. So that also, like I said, business inspections are going to kick back up, getting our investigators back out to our local businesses, getting all of our files updated that have been kind of stagnant for the last year and a half because of COVID. Also, weed abatement, hazard abatement inspections are going. So if your neighbors or yourself receive a notice, we are out patrolling actively. So just a lot of things going on within the fire district. Right now we have 3 new firefighters getting ready to start. They're in their 2-week orientation academy right now. And we anticipate with retirements over the next couple of years, a pretty big draw on as far as the rotation of new guys coming in. So a lot of movement within the fire district at our lower ranks. So that's about it as far as just a quick kind of update on the fire district. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity. Apple Valley Fire wants to be a part of everything in our community, and we fully support this. And just excited to be here. Any questions for me?
Buddy, I've got 2 questions. Do you have a phone number for those of us who want to rat out our neighbors who are shooting fireworks off? Somebody we can call, or a quick response number or something?
Yes, sir. So
code
760 956 5001. And then the we tip, if you want to be anonymous, is 1-800-47 and the word arson, ARSON.
Oh, that's catchy. The next question, which you probably don't have an answer for, any indication that some of the billions of dollars that Governor Newsom just dedicated to fire prevention is going to flow down to Apple Valley?
Well, that's where we're looking into some of the CARES Act funding and some of the different, grant opportunities and funding. I know one of the big ticket items excluded fire districts. So we're looking to see if there's any way around that. I know a lot of it goes to cities direct, and us being independent fire district, we're trying to see if we can, find the loophole or the way around it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, your problem is you're self-sustaining. You're not a drain on the town. Thank you, buddy. Be safe out there. I'm not sure if our sheriff representative has appeared yet, but.
Oh, not yet, Pat.
Okay, well, he may have other issues
Of course.
that prevent him from being here. So someone who has an industry that hasn't been in the news at all, and nobody really cares about what's happening at her school district. Trenae, you haven't gotten this much press ever, have you, in the education field?
I don't believe so, Pat. I was just going to start with starting my 30th year in education and my 2nd year in this role. I can't imagine that I will face something similar to this in the future. Let's hope this is it, and I retire before there's any other issues. I see Lisa on the line, so I really appreciate that, because she's my partner in crime in this town around education, and we move hand in hand in supporting each other because it's necessary. The pandemic did create quite an issue for students, as everybody is aware, and families. I was a proponent to, along with all of the high desert districts, to keep our schools open in March. And as all of you know, at a 11th hour, after all of our students had gone home and most of our staff, the county and the state said that we had to close. And so we did. We did come back under a waiver in the fall, and that was only allowable for elementary students. So most of our students at elementary, about 50% did return under the waiver. And then we ended up with cohorts at our secondary level. So we were supporting all of our severely handicapped students that were really struggling to deal with online learning. That was an advocacy through our teachers to get those kids back on campus as much as possible. And so they were the first group to come back, and then the elementary waiver students followed. When Apple Valley was on the news for St. Mary's being, national news for the ICU beds being 300% capacity, we made the decision to shut down. I've shared at other meetings that if my children were in a car accident and had to be transported someplace, that was the hospital they'd go. And I felt this was bigger than just our school district and the support that we could provide. We went in tandem. Lisa and I made the decision and called it, and supported Randy Castillo and his staff on what their needs were. We turned around, and when there was an opportunity to provide vaccinations in this community, Randy reached out to Lisa and I. We partnered with them. We were the pilot districts to start with our educators prior to education being in the list of groups. And to date, I think we're close. By the time we close on May 6th, the large vaccination center, we're on track for 20,000 vaccinations in this community. We live here, we care about the community. We knew it was the only way we could get our staffs and our students back. Because although we did not have huge numbers of positive COVID cases when we were open under the waiver, we still had a lot of people that were having to quarantine, which was impacting the classrooms. The last group to go home in December would have been our SH kids, and that they went a couple weeks prior. Many people don't know this, but Apple Valley Unified did lose a student in January to COVID, a student that had been participating in our cohorts, and it was devastating to us. They did not contract it through the school district or in their classroom, nor did they pass it. However, that family lost a couple family members to COVID, including that child. And so when we didn't reopen as quickly as everybody demanded, we did that with a lot of caution, because we knew we were dealing with, a lot more than just the community, but people's lives. We did come back. We are currently in hybrid. We know some of our neighboring districts are pushing to open 5 days a week. We have about 5.5 weeks left with students. And our students have had to endure opening, closing, teacher changes multiple times. And so I'm not as eager to push for full time at this point, knowing that the governor is changing the June 15th date with that color coding going away. And we're hopeful that we will be back fully. That's our plan in the fall. We believe that there will still be masking requirements and some other conditions for school districts. With that said, athletics have been back. We are required to test our athletes. We had Skills USA, which is all of our CTE programs, participate, and we've moved on to state, and we believe national competitions as well. Those will be virtual. We've had the largest one-time funding that education in California has ever seen. The funding is 1 year, 2 year, and there is a 3rd year out for some of the funding streams. There are some requirements under the funding as to what we can spend it on. We are looking at capitalizing on things like HVAC replacement that will allow for air circulation, which they indicate is a big factor with COVID and the spread of it. But that said, there are a lot of things that we are working hard to get in place. They've also indicated that there's this learning loss mitigation funding, extended learning opportunity. So Apple Valley will have a full summer school program this year. We are exploring ability to provide things other than just credit recovery and just getting kids engaged. Those things will include social emotional learning, which is the biggest issue right now, is making sure that our kids are actually functioning because they've been home all this time. There's huge outreach right now having to do with abuse and the uptick of conditions for students that in a low socioeconomic area are impacted by things other than just not being able to go to school, but covering their family by taking on jobs, supporting younger children. It just, the mass of information that we are provided on a daily basis is concerning. We've done lots of home visits, trying to get kids back engaged. And at this time, only about 2/3 of our kids are actually here on hybrid. Depending on school site, we have up to 50% still staying home on virtual education. And on the horizon is that will sunset June 30th. And we know that there are families that will still desire to have a virtual option. And yet we are being told that there is still no parameters for that. And if they revert back to an independent study model for that, we are 10%. That's it. 10% can be virtual. So that will impact public education greatly. And then on the horizon is the law regarding change of start time, that we can't start our high schools before 8:30 in the morning, can't start any middle grades before 8 a.m. And in a district that covers 200 square miles, that means somebody's going to be getting up and on the road in the dark. And most likely that's our elementary students, as early as our TK and Ks could be expected to catch buses as early as 7 a.m. if we have to keep our 3 flights. So that's troublesome in an area like ours that's rural and doesn't have a lot of walk pathway for kids. Otherwise, we're thrilled to have kids back.
I can see why you'd like to retire. Is there an issue with staff that don't want to return or don't want to be inoculated?
Actually, Pat, we're not allowed to know who wants to be inoculated. In fact, because we scheduled so many, I know by face who got their vaccines, but it's a HIPAA requirement. I can't ask who's been vaccinated. We believe we had about 2/3 that we know they showed interest. Whether they actually went through with it, I don't know. We have not had a pushback from staff about safety. If they asked for protectors and different furniture for their classrooms, we provided that. Our unions have been wonderful with our return, and in neighboring districts, we know that there were hours and hours and days upon days of negotiations. Ours were typically, we met, we conferred, we had an MOU, we walked out of the room, and we got our kids back.
That's great. That's great, because parents are going to need to hear that, because that's a concern, obviously. All right, well, good luck. I've been through the remote learning process as recent as yesterday, when we went offline and couldn't get back on with my grandson. So although I would like to talk to you sometime about a money-making opportunity, if you have a video of all the mistakes, the naked people that have walked through the screen, etc. at home, that would be wonderful. Well, I mean, we'd have to block some things out, but it'd be a real fundraiser for the school district, I think, because I've heard about some really exciting home learning experiences on screen. But anyway, hopefully that will be over very soon. Thank you for joining us. All right, we've got to catch up here now. Coldwell Banker runs the world up here, it seems like. They're everywhere. And Chris Lamoureux is here to share some information about real estate in our local area and our state and maybe our county. Chris.
Hi, good morning. I promised to keep it mostly Apple Valley, but I'll give you some facts and figures from the state as well. So in Apple Valley, here's a snapshot. Hopefully I zoomed in as much as I could to share my screen here. You can see that the number of sales, March 2021, this March past over the past year is up 10.24%. And so despite probably what you're feeling out there or hearing out there, we're actually selling more homes now than we were last year. And you can see our median sales price is up 20% year over year. It's just incredible. But we're also getting more new listings on the market over last year. And our average days on market, so the average time that the house is up for sale, dropped 50%. So last March, we were averaging 56 days on market. And this March in Apple Valley, only 28 days on the market. Just to give you a comparison by the state, statewide, the average days on market in February, that's the most recent figures we have, was 10 days on the market. Incredible. The number of sales last year in the entire state of California was up 3.5% over 2019. So despite the pandemic, despite being temporarily shut down, this entire state of California, we actually sold more homes than 2019. It's just been a crazy year. And I'll tease you with some more figures here. So you can see specifically in Apple Valley, the number of sold listings in March last month was 140 versus last year, 127. So that increase in price, the days on market, which I just talked to you about, is shown here. The median days on market and the listing to price ratio, meaning if the house is put on the market for 300,000, what's it going to actually sell for? We're actually selling above. In fact, a third of the homes are selling above the sales price. Everyone is getting multiple offers, not only locally in Apple Valley, regionally, statewide. It's just the housing market's on fire. Let's just say that in a good way. You can see here from 2018 to present, the median sales price, 255 to 266, last year at 300,000 in Apple Valley, and this quarter already at 346,000. And you can see, so this represents only one quarter, of course, but we were selling more homes than before. It just doesn't feel like it because we have such a short supply of inventory at the moment. Everything sells so quickly, so it's gone. This you can see shows the number of transactions and the median sales price. So in the blue, you can see how the median sales price is increasing. And economists predict that this year we will have probably double-digit price increases as well. And it's a supply and demand, of course, economics 101. We just have more buyers than sellers out there. So, and a few more graphs, and I won't bore you, but you can see the average days on market, the black line keeps coming down. And again, the sales price going up. So like I said, this is supply and demand 101, that we're gonna have price appreciation. And on a side note, rentals, the rental inventory is super tight as well. We have very few houses and apartments available to rent, and rent increases have been happening. Of course, we have a statewide rent cap now, but it's 7% plus CPI. So you can still actually raise rents a decent amount, but as a landlord, that's a good thing for the supply and demand. But so the average sales price and number of properties for sale increasing. Just again, a supply and demand of the sales price going up, the number of properties for sale at any one moment going down. But I just want to, I know there's a lot of graphs here, so probably the nerdy part of me, I like these graphs, but I'll finish with this one. You can see that the absorption rate is low. In other words, our months of inventory are at pretty much 1 month of inventory, and a normal supply, a healthy market or normal balanced market is a 6-month supply. But the bottom line is that yes, it is a seller's market, but it is also a buyer's market because the mortgage rates are still at a historical low rate. So the buyers have a lot of buying power. So despite, and plus they're gonna have appreciation on their price. If you buy right now, appreciation is anticipated. And so it's kind of both a buyer's and a seller's market. We could definitely, as an industry, use a lot more houses on the market to sell, but it's going to be a great year. So that's it in a snapshot for Apple Valley.
Chris, when you talk to your agents, are the homes that are selling in Apple Valley particularly, are they people moving up or are they people fleeing the cities?
It's both, but as a state, that's a great question. I know the state reported that 30% of the sellers moved out of state. And I could say we're probably right around that here in our region as well, that about a third of the people are moving out of state. But we also have an influx. Of course, we're lucky here in the high desert. We're one of the most reasonably priced housing markets. So we have a lot of people moving from Southern California to our market because of our low prices compared to their pricing there.
Last question, are the Adelanto tract homes, Adelanto, Victorville, the people that are still building tracts, are they moving at the same rate as the individual properties like in an Apple Valley?
Yeah, because we have such low resale inventory, as we call the homes that are, they're not first time for sale. And we have a low brand new construction amount of homes. compared to, the biggest thing is, you know, the economy was maybe in flux this last year, but it wasn't a housing crisis. The last two recessions were housing related recessions, but not the two prior to that. So this economy, we don't actually have a housing crisis. We have fewer new homes that are for sale, so they're just as hot.
Well, that's good, I guess. I know you have a house in the mountains and so do I, and things up there are just nuts. I mean.
Yeah, in fact, in the secondary markets, such as Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, they sold as much as 92% more homes in 2020 than in 2019. Incredible. Yeah, the secondary home markets are on even more fire.
It's interesting too, because a lot of those are work from home younger couples. They're just getting out of Los Angeles. Anyway, okay.
Hey, Pat, we did
Now-
have a comment from Donald. Apple Valley Transfer and Storage mentioned that approximately 2/3 of their moves are going out of California.
Yeah, I have relatives and friends who have vacated California recently, and they say they're happy, and when they look around their new neighborhood, they're all from California. So everybody's smiling apparently, especially when they go to the gas station. Now, from somebody who's making a lot of money to somebody who's spending a lot of money, and who also has been in the news, from our hospital, Kevin. Where are you, Kevin? There you
I'm
are.
here.
Hey.
Yeah, Pat, I got an unstable connection, so I took the video off.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want you to be unstable. You're,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I
St.
got enough
Mary's has
problems
done a
already
wonderful-
without being unstable.
St. Mary's has done a wonderful job. They were in the news not for the best reasons, but they beat that back. And how are we doing now?
Well, good morning, everyone, and I just hope the voice comes through and doesn't get sound like I'm in space. I noticed my colleague Brian Hennebury is with me. I want to give a shout out to the town, to Apple Valley School District Trenae, to law enforcement for the support with the Apple Valley Super Vaccine site that we still run 3 days a week right next to the hospital at Our Lady of the Desert. We've probably vaccinated or given out over 30,000 shots. I put in the chat the county's COVID-19 website for people who like to look at stuff. And what it does is it lets you look by zip code at how we're doing with vaccination rates. Apple Valley 92307 and 92308. You got some of the highest fully vaccination rates in the high desert. We're up near 20 some percent. I think the experts are saying to get that herd immunity, we need to bounce it up to like 75, 80%. So the good news is that the hospital is very busy caring for people. And then again, with the help of the community, we've got a 3-day-a-week vaccine site in Apple Valley that's paying dividends to the local residents. Many people don't know this, but when COVID began to really hurt our community, we saw it clearly at the hospital. With concerns about our kids being isolated, we started a suicide navigation program on children that wanted to take their life or hurt themselves. I think we've been really successful with it. We've had 50 kids, including children from Apple Valley, who have come to us saying they wanted to end their life. And of the 51 children, only one child has relapsed in the sense that they've said they wanted to take their life or hurt themselves or somebody again. So we're pleased with that little pilot, which we initiated when we got concerned that all this isolation was starting to cause a tidal wave of mental health, which continues to be a big issue with us. Most people don't know that the other thing we're doing, because of the way the governor is using equity, is we're bouncing out into neighborhoods, Old Town Victorville, Adelanto, and we're looking for the hard to reach neighborhoods, and we're doing pop-up, we call them pop-up vaccine clinics, maybe 200, 300, 400 people, where next to St. Mary, we might do 5, 8, 1,000 a day. What we're trying to do is get out into those little neighborhoods, get those people vaccinated so that the governor can look at our community and say, from corner to corner, you're high with your vaccination rates. And so let's open up this economy again. That's really it. We're happy to take any questions. I know my colleague Brian might have some hospital specific thing. I mean, our challenges continue to be improving access to care, addressing a wave of mental health, adult and child, and then addressing housing and homelessness. We still have a growing number of people who, when we want to discharge them, say, you know, I don't have a place to go to. And we're scratching our heads trying to figure that one out. That's it, Pat.
Are you guys, is the hospital back to surgery on demand?
Oh, Brian, do you want to jump in and share?
Yeah, we are, Pat. Thanks for the question. It's ramping back up. We have a number of physicians who have asked for additional block time at the medical center in order to catch up with the surgeries that have been basically put on hold due to the vaccine and the pandemic. So once folks are vaccinated, or even those who are not, can come in and see their physician, and we ask again not to delay care, because the National Cancer Institute is stating that they're expecting an uptick in cancer diagnoses this year due to the lack of screenings that are done at the hospitals. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware not to delay care. And the hospital we've opened up all the doors to be able to accommodate as many surgeons as we can to get their procedures done.
That's good news. It's some things you just can't put off. Well, you can, but then it could be a life-ending decision.
Exactly.
Thank you, both of you, for the job you do. It's not easy to be in a business where the customers never stop and every one of them has a problem. So.
That's right.
Thanks, Pat.
We're going to hear a lot about water. If you haven't already paid attention to the news, you know that we're going to go into another drought. Almost every 4 years, we're in a dangerous situation. The director from the Mojave Water Agency, Rick Well, is with us. Rick, he's my director in Division 5. What kind of projects have you got going, Rick, at the water agency? Is he still? I have to mute yourself if you're with us.
Okay, here I am. I'm sorry.
There you are. All right.
I'm not in front of a computer. I'm on my phone. So, hey, welcome, guys. It's good to hear from some of these, some people here that I haven't heard from in a while. Obviously, water is a hot topic in the desert, but I'm happy to say, after being on the board now since December, the updates that we've gotten, we're in good shape here, actually, with water, believe it or not. That the agency has done really well with storing the water for the future. So how this works, obviously people might not realize, but the water that we use here in the town of Apple Valley and the outskirts of the area, most of it comes from Northern California down the aqueduct into Silverwood. From Silverwood, it's pumped over the mountain into the valley of San Bernardino, and then the other water is sent down the river into the Mojave River, which is the only river in the area that runs north. So we're doing good. Now, some of the water that comes out of the Deep Creek area actually recharges the basin, but there's definitely not enough water to do that. So we have to import water from Northern California, where it starts at Shasta Lake, goes into the Delta, and then comes down the aqueduct. But unfortunately, it is California, and they keep changing the rules on us, and we get less water at a higher rate. So it gets passed along. But we are currently in the urban water management plan completion, which we have to do, and it's going to meet the forecast needs for the next 25 years, which will bring it up to 2045. And we've had several years of drought and consecutive years of drought, which has been pretty bad for the water use, but we have stored the water, like I said. Currently, we have there's three pipelines. There's one that runs to Morongo from the aqueduct and replenishes the Yucca Valley 29 Palms area. There's another pipeline that runs from the aqueduct to Barstow that replenishes Barstow. And then currently, it's going to be opened up very soon. There's a pipeline that goes to the area of Adelanto. And that actually cost about $5 million. And that was paid for by MWA, the state of California, and the city of Adelanto. And that's going to be up and running. I did want to bring up one thing that's been a hot topic with water in the desert. Now, it doesn't really affect the town of Apple Valley too much because the town is pretty diligent about this, but it's the illegal marijuana grows. And I'm not talking about the ones that are in some guy's garage. These are these big industrial marijuana grows that are prevalent in Helendale, Lucerne, Daggett, the unincorporated areas of Apple Valley. And the sheriff's department, I know they're not on the line, but I have spoken to somebody that works that they've identified over 1,000 of these outdoor grows. And the people that live in those areas are pretty upset about them. And it is a threat to the water supply. And the reason that is because if you're a dairy farmer or you're running one of these lakes out in Newberry Springs for the water ski wakeboarding, you know, you have to pay for your water and it's regulated. And because if you're a low user, you're using 10 acre feet of water a year. So 10 acre feet is basically somebody that uses enough water to cover 10 acres of land at 1 foot. And that's considered a low user. So the problem with the marijuana is that they're sinking these wells and there's no regulation on it. Some of them are permitted, some of them are not. Some of them are just run off of generators, so they have no idea how much water is being pumped because you can't monitor the electricity use on it. So it is becoming a big issue in the area. And MWA is not an enforcer of this. We are just the water purveyor, but some of the public is demanding that MWA get involved and at least try to identify how much water is being used. So that's a big issue. And but overall, the water in the Apple Valley area is good. Obviously, the town is right on top of the aquifer and the river. Water tables have been pretty stable over the last few years. They don't fluctuate too much. I know Liberty is probably on the line here and maybe even give an update on their wells, but it's looking good. And as a long-term resident of Apple Valley, water has been a big issue up here in the desert. But I'm here to say that it's really they've done a good job. MWA has been around since 1960, and it encompasses 4,900 square miles of the desert, and they've really done an outstanding job over the years of being a water purveyor. So we're in good shape, and it's always good to come on and speak to things that are positive, that are going on. And I just appreciate the time. Thanks, Pat. Anybody got any questions on anything? I can try to answer them.
Hey, Rick, this is Kevin. It just was interesting, these grows, these marijuana or cannabis grows. We were on a call yesterday with the Healthy Snowline community, Phelan, Pinion Hills, and they were lamenting as well that people were taking water, I guess, literally from their fire hydrants and filling up large containers and damaging the fire hydrants, et cetera, and what they were doing. So just sounds like it's a vexing issue out there.
It is. There's a good rate of theft of water. It's not sufficient. I mean, it's not a big number that's going to affect, but the big issue is the wells that are being drilled. I talked to a well driller just the other day that's been drilling wells up here since the 1950s, and they have a 8-month backlog of wells, and they're all going. For the majority are going to the marijuana grows, and it's not cheap.
Wow.
To dig a well, just to dig a well is about between $30,000 and $50,000. And, you know, they're actually getting offered $20,000 to $30,000 over the asking price to dig a well to be bumped up on the list. So that's the kind of money that's being spent for these, and the sheriff's department diligently working on. But you know, marijuana is legal, and so there's the threshold to make it a crime has changed over the years, where it used to be a guy growing 3 plants in his garage, it was a felony, and now it's, you know, it's a nothing crime. So, but it is an issue, and it does affect the water. And you know, the people, the farmers, and the alfalfa growers that have to play by the rules, you know, they're pretty upset about it, because you know, they've been playing by the rules, and these guys are coming in and not playing by the rules. So what's fair is fair. So it is an issue. Like I said, it's not an issue within the town limits, because, you know, they stand out like a sore thumb. These gigantic these grows with these big plywood fences. You can see them from a mile away, but it does affect it. But overall, for the town of Apple Valley, we're in really good shape for water, and we will be for the foreseeable future.
Thanks, Rick. Are there questions in the
Okay.
chat? I don't see right now, but water is one of the most
I'm on.
important things. So we really need to keep a handle on that. And again, I think if you see something out there, you can call Apple Valley Town Code Enforcement, and they might give it a look, even if it's not within the town boundaries. They might be able to alert the sheriff's department if you see something happen in your area regarding theft of water, because it's important. Let's move on to a quick banking update from Cindy Tom. Cindy, interest rates are low, loans are flying out the door, right?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, our lending and our mortgage continues to be doing very well. Rates are creeping up a little bit, but our mortgage department is very busy and doing well. We are also doing home equity loans, and that seems to be working out well, whether it's a line of credit or just a mortgage, you know, on a second. We are doing those. Unfortunately, fraud is up. Customers are getting emails and they're getting texts. And now these customers are not stealing the mail out of your mailbox. They're doing it by email, hacking into emails, even hacking into your banking, and sending texts and asking customers to do all kinds of things. And I know the county had something out on seniors are vulnerable, and it's not just the seniors, but of course they are. So yeah, that's up and on the rise. And the bank is open now. We're back. We've been open now over a month, so we're back to business, doing well. So that's all I have.
Great. Good local bank if you need a loan or mortgage. And I get about 5 or 6 texts every 3 or 4 days that my credit cards have been closed. Call this number to verify your information. So it's out there. The fraud's out there. Nobody knows how they get everybody's. It's probably Alexa that's reporting us to everybody, to the crooks. But anyway.
Yeah, we tell customers
Back to water.
If they get, if they do get that text, hang up and call the company to make sure it's legitimate. Don't respond to that text because it could be fraudulent.
Right. Block the number. We have Carol Thomas-Keefer from Liberty Utilities with us. And if there's going to be water affected, if there's going to be somebody controlling the water that comes to your house, they be the people. How's things at Liberty, Carol?
Things are pretty good. Good morning, everyone. You know, I was listening to the discussion on the theft, and Kevin was talking about that in some of the other areas. And we have problems with that too, especially on the northern end of town, as you can imagine, where it's just pretty open. In fact, I want to say it's probably been a couple of years ago, in tracking someone who was stealing water, we did discover a large large pot farm too, and alerted the authorities. So it happens in our neighborhood too sometimes. We try to put these devices that kind of lock the hydrants, and we alert the fire district and give them the keys. And sometimes those are effective, and sometimes they cut those off as well. You know, the folks that want to steal water. So we try to do what we can to protect it though. Just a few things of interest. One is you may know that our customer service office had been closed to the public due to COVID since a year ago, March. It still is. We are hoping to reopen maybe at least with limited hours sometime this summer. Our company is obviously they operate throughout the country at different locations. So they're taking a very cautious and phased approach to reopening. We'll be gradually bringing people back to work in the office, as most of us have been working remotely for the past year. But we do hope to have customers be able to come into the office, hopefully maybe by sometime this summer, not sure about when that is. Again, we have a phased approach and that we just haven't reached that phase yet. As I'm sure most of you know, the the eminent domain trial with the town of Apple Valley finally completed in mid-February. Gosh, that must have been the longest trial of that type in state history, I would imagine, between the COVID interruptions and the court schedule. It went on for months and months. We finally wrapped it up in the middle of February, and the judge is expected to render a decision sometime next month. We don't have a precise date, but we are hoping to receive that sometime next month. As far as our capital projects, we are waiting for that decision to really move ahead with any large projects. Hopefully we will kick off some main replacement projects in May. We have a large phase of Riverside Drive main replacement scheduled to start. It'll go from Shoshone to Seneca. And then another one in the easement on the east side of Kiowa Road from Del Oro to Sandia. So we do have some good sized main replacement projects that we expect to be kicking off by sometime next month. I think that's all I have for you, but happy to answer any questions.
If the drought thing kicks in big time, would you be the one that institutes a restriction on watering days, et cetera, or does that come from the state and you have to enforce it?
Well, if it's done in the same manner it was several years ago, back in 2016, when the state issued mandatory drought restrictions and mandatory cutbacks, they gave the water purveyors the liberty to implement those programs as best they felt, based on their areas and their customer bases and the types of customers they have. So for instance, if we were mandated to cut back 30%, we could determine how best to do that, and then try to work it, particularly if we have to include drought surcharges as we did. Obviously a disincentive can be very effective in getting people to use less water. But we do generally have some flexibility in how we do that. Now, when it comes to actual enforcement, we don't have that authority. We would look to the town for enforcement of any violations, and we would report those to them. But we would certainly be the ones to implement the restrictions.
Do you have any kind of a hotline if people up in North Apple Valley or out in the boonies are reporting they see somebody load a water truck off of a fire hydrant or stealing or anything like that, or is it
just our regular customer service line? And we generally don't get those calls. It's generally our operators that will see that when they're out taking samples or making their rounds, checking the facilities. We've often, or several times at least, we've actually caught people filling up those containers in the back of pickup trucks and things like that.
Okay, well, they're all taking money right out of our pocket, out of the aquifer. So
they sure.
If everybody participated in reporting that kind of thing. All right, I think we're just about through our group of speakers. I want to thank everybody who has spoken. Mr. Cruffield wants to talk about the Greater High Desert Chamber, which the only reason, by the way, I stayed involved in the chamber in Apple Valley after I sold my business was to help the Greater High Desert Chamber get started. I think we're stronger together, and we really need to encourage our brothers in Apple Valley, whether they're new businesses or old businesses, to join the Greater High Desert Chamber, because 700 members, even if you just do business with 10% of them, you're going to increase your sales no matter what you're selling. Mark, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Pat. And first off, thanks to everybody for being here this morning for our first All Things Apple Valley. A special thank you to all of the speakers that made it on the call this morning. And you know, I say this with a smile on my face. Thank you so much for being here early. I always like to bring the speakers in the room, designate them as a co-host, and I appreciate you all being on early. So we had everybody accounted before we started. But you know, we're 3.5 months into the merger. Most of the major details have been worked out. We have a few small little things here and there that we're still working on. We're hoping that we as a chamber will be reopened again. We're probably shooting for the June timeframe because we just do not want to hold any in-person events where there would be restrictions on how capacities. You know, we wouldn't want to host a mixer or a Valley Morning Insight or the Quick Connect in Apple Valley if we were restricted about how many people we can have indoors. So little grace and mercy. We're light at the end of the tunnel, and we hope that we'll be there soon. I did want to mention that we will have our next All Things Apple Valley in May, and perhaps the June one will be at the Apple Valley office. One question that we get a lot with the merger is are we going to close down Apple Valley? Are we going to close down, what office are we going to be working out of? Well, I'm proud to say that we will have 3 offices to serve the Greater High Desert. We'll have a Hesperia office, a Victorville office, and the Apple Valley office will be staffed with employees when we all get back in person, and will be open its normal regular hours. So we're not closing down the Apple Valley office. So our Apple Valley chamber members through the Greater High Desert will be able to conduct their business there as well. But just a few upcoming events I wanted to go over. This upcoming Tuesday, we have 2 events. We actually have a ribbon cutting that we are going to do an in-person, wearing masks, social distancing, but there'll also be the Zoom option. That's for Quick Quack Car Wash. It's their location in Hesperia that's on Bear Valley Road. But if you know where it's at, it's where the new development came in, where the new Wendy's is, where the new Aldi's is, right across the street from the Victor Valley College. So pretty much a stone throw from Apple Valley. But we're going to be doing that ribbon cutting at 11:30 a.m. this coming Tuesday, April 20th. Now, April 20th, also at 5 p.m., we're having our second virtual mixer. All of you should have received the email through the blast email that I sent out. I believe it was on Wednesday. The blast will also go out today in the weekly e-blast, and then we'll do a final blast on Monday. But if anyone on this call attended that virtual mixer that we had back in March, it was just a very successful event. We break everybody up into multiple breakout rooms. It gives you the opportunity to talk about your business. And we have a lot of fun in the process. So hopefully we'll see a few of you there. Our next coffee break update will be a week from today on April 23rd. We will have our usual updates from City of Adelanto, City of Victorville, City of Hesperia, and the town of Apple Valley. So we hope you'll join us then. Again, watch your emails or go to our chamber calendar at our website, GHDCC.com. And lastly, our next Valley Morning Insight will be on May 5th. Again, we're going to stay virtual probably until at least mid-June or July. But check your emails, go to our website. We're really good about passing out information on anything coming up Greater High Desert wise. But, I want to thank everybody. We've received a tremendous amount of support from all of our members on the merger. We know it's kind of a tough thing. Change is sometimes tough. I mean, trust me, I've experienced it just going through the whole merger process. But, the board of directors is incredibly supportive. We still have our business councils, which are the former Apple Valley, Adelanto, Hesperia, and Victorville board of directors. Those are our chamber business councils. So if you have any questions, comments about anything, you can always call me here at the Victorville office or send me an email. And everyone have a wonderful weekend. And again, back to you, Pat. Thank you so much for emceeing this morning.
I would just say thank you to everybody, and I would encourage you, everybody on this call, if you are a member, that's great. If you're not a member, you should join. And if you know people who are struggling to start their business, have them give Mark a call, whether it's political, whether it's training, whether it's regulations. We have people in this chamber that can help businesses. That's what they're about. And we should use it. We should all rely on these people who have the information and the staff to help us, especially the small time businesses. So until next time, we'll hopefully see everybody at the mixer. It's fun. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. You can unmute and say goodbye if you'd like, but have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, all.
Hey, everyone.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for joining us today.